There's a website called Mike's Amazing World where you can look up the publication date of every comic book from every company that was ever put out. And what we're looking at here is the only comic book that was published on the day of my birth, April 15, 1974. It is called Flashback Issue 12. It is a reprint of New York World's Fair comics from April of 1939. On the cover you can see 96 pages in full color, but when we open up inside you'll see this reprint is just black and white. Also on the cover we can see Superman, but is it Superman? He's blonde with a red shirt. Well, it's got his name there, so it must be him. Yes, it actually is him because if we look, he's got the first story, Superman at the World's Fair by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. This is the very first Superman story to appear outside of Action Comics. And this came out right after Action Comics issue 12 and before issue 13. So it predates Superman getting his own series. But here's something else interesting. This also came out after Detective Comics issue 27 and before issue 28. Now, issue 27 is the first appearance of Batman. Batman's not in here, but I think it's just kind of neat that once Batman hit, then the New York World's Fair comic came out. And then Detective Comics resumed with the next Batman story. I guess it'd be more interesting if Batman was actually in this. But I want to tell you about something I'm working on. So I am working on a new webcomic. Now, if you study communication, you may come across the name Marshall McLuhan, who was a communication theorist. And he wrote a book in 1964. The first chapter is titled, "The Medium is the Message." Now, this is important because here you have, let's say, a message, which is the Superman story. In this case, it is not just text, but illustration. The story isn't important. What is important is the medium that it's in. In this case, a comic book. A comic book has this size and shape of a page and this type of a panel layout. This originates from where comic books originated from. The newspaper strip, formatted to this shape, and then you get the comic book. So as comic books evolved, the story adapts to this style of page. Sure, when these comics first came out, like when this came out, it is the newspaper strips kind of cut and reshaped to fit this type of page. But as you go on through the history of comics, you can get more elaborate with the way you lay out a page because you know the medium of how you're going to tell your story. Well, this is all ancient now. The new way to put out a webcomic is not the way that I used to put out my old webcomics, and it's definitely not the way you would put out a comic book page. So the number one dominant, popular, and highest selling form of comic books in the world is manga, which is the Japanese comic. It is what my daughter reads. It's what all young people have been into for a very long time. But the medium is now the phone, and it has been for a long time, and it may be for a very long time in the future. I don't know how the future is going to go, but that is the medium, and it is just too difficult to read a comic book page, a manga page, any of this type of page on a phone. There's too much zooming in, zooming back out, this and that. So there is a new form that has been created. It was created in South Korea. It's called the webtoon. And it is now the most popular and dominant form of reading comic stories in the world. Webtoon has more readers than all comic book publishers combined. And so I am doing a lot of research with Webtoon of how do I format what I've got to tell, what my message is in the new medium. And that's what I'm working on. I have written the first 86 installments. I am halfway done, I believe, with what I want to do in my research phase before I start putting pen to paper. And I'm simultaneously researching Webtoon. And you know what? My stuff is really not going to fit in. It's not going to fit in, but I don't think my stuff ever fit in anywhere. So it is what it is. My stuff's never going to be popular. I'm never going to have a large audience. I'm never going to have people that are just going to relate to the story I've got to tell. And it's going to be much worse now because at least things resembled what I made and my references were topical. None of that is the case anymore. But that's okay. All that matters is that I do it and I put it out there and somebody reads it. And that's what I'm going to do. And hopefully I'll get it out there sooner than later and we can all see what we think about it. But I'm kicking things off with a comedy series. That's what it's going to be, single panel jokes. And it's going to be fun. I'll see you next time. Look inside and it is black and white. Okay, so look, I just tore it. You saw that in real time. I just tore this 51-and-a-half-year-old comic book. Such is life. The number one genre of story that people are consuming is romance. I don't read or write romance stories. I don't like them. So all of the characters are females or elves or shirtless guys hugging each other. So that's not anything that I do.